Hi, in this video we're going to talk about some common sampling types. The most common is a simple random sample. And the easiest way to think about that is putting all the names in a hat and just drawing the names out. So this is probably the one that you're most familiar with, and this is probably the most common way to sample. Is if I had all the students in the classroom, I put all their names in the hat, and if I wanted to sample 10, I'd pull out 10 names. And that's what we call a simple random sample. But there are other types of sampling. The first one is called systematic sampling, and you can kind of think about this one as the assembly line sampling. For example, if you were making cars, you might choose to sample every kth car. In other words, if you're making thousands of cars, you might choose to sample every 200th car, or you might sample every 100th car. An example of this in the classroom would be if I had all my students line up and I said, I'm going to sample every third student. Okay, so I'd go 1, 2, 3. Lucy, you're getting sampled. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Nancy, you're getting sampled. 1, 2, 3. Sierra, you're getting sampled. 1, 2, 3. George, you're getting sampled. 1, 2, 3. Frank, you're getting sampled. So this is called systematic sampling, where we take the every third, or you might take the every 100th. And again, this is very useful if you have things coming off an assembly line. The next type of sampling that I want to talk to you about is convenience sampling. And again, this is done more often than not. People convenience sample. Convenience sampling is just we ask whoever is easiest to ask. So if I ask you to do a survey whether or not people like dogs or cats, and you go ask your family members and your classmates, that would be a convenience sample because they're the easiest people to ask. Another example happens often online in that it either pops up or you're on a website and they just pop up a sample. So this is US Weekly. They like to do who wore this best, and it pops up. I can click on it, and then I can participate in the survey. Not very scientific. They're just sampling whoever logs in and asking the question, and you vote. Okay, so that's how that works. It is called convenience sampling because we're collecting data that is the easiest to get. We're not putting all the names in a hat and pulling at random. We're just asking whoever we can. And with the onset of technology, this has become more and more popular. It's not necessarily the best way to sample, but it is obviously the easiest way to sample. The next type of sampling, two types of sampling, I should say, get confused a lot. So I'll do my best to try to tell you the difference between stratified and cluster. Okay. For stratified sampling, we subdivide the population into strata by some characteristic, and then we randomly select within each strata. We want to make sure that each strata is equally represented. One example of this would be when we survey registered voters. We often divide voters into Democrats and Republicans and make sure that we sample both Democrats and Republicans. So we divide them or make groups based on Republican, Democrats, and then we make sure that we sample within each group. All right. Our classroom example is easy to see. I could divide my group into males and females, okay? And then to make sure that I'm representing both groups accurately, I might pick 3 at random from each group. Okay, so I might pick these 3, and I might pick these 3, okay? But now I know that in my sample, both males and females are equally represented, so there won't be any bias based on that. And you can think about this as Republicans and Democrats or whatever you want. The big difference between this and the next type of sampling is that we have a way to separate them. We have these strata, and we collect data within each strata, but we don't collect all the data within each strata. The last type of sampling is cluster sampling. And again, we're going to partition our sample. But the big difference is we're going to sample everything within that partition, within that group, in other words. An example of that might be if we wanted to survey all the lakes in Minnesota. We can see that Minnesota is already kind of partitioned based on counties, okay? And we can pick counties at random and go in there and sample all the lakes within that county. That's the big difference. We're going to sample all the lakes within the chosen county. Whereas in a stratified sample, we still only take a sub-portion of the group. In a cluster sample, we sample everything within that group. Okay, so again, we might come here and we'd want to sample all the lakes within this county and come here and sample all the lakes within that county. So that is the difference between cluster and stratified. So those are our main sampling types. Again, the majority of the time we will assume we have a simple random sample, but I want to make you aware of these other types because they have meaning as well and are used to collect samples.